Hello there, YouTube. Today I'm going to be going over one of my more competitive EDH decks, and that is going to be Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. This deck is all about getting damage in through your opponents through unblockable creatures, and then using the Commander Ninjutsu ability of Yuriko to get in damage, and then stacking the top of your deck with high converted mana cost cards. Also, I got my new playmat here with Macho Man Randy Savage on it, and then I got my name. It says Snap Into a Pack, and it's a picture of him holding 2 packs of cards. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see the whole thing, but I got that custom made at Inked Gaming. So that is really cool, and that'll be nice for when I open up some Strixhaven boxes. Also, if you like these kind of deck tech videos, I have one that did pretty well that was around Turgrid. And then also I'm doing this one, and I do these with my own cards. And if you like this content, please subscribe. I'll be making some more of these videos, and you can tell me what you kind of want to see next or what you like. If you like more competitive or if you like more casual. And then also I'll be doing some box openings. So getting into it, we have Yuriko the Tiger Shadow. I have the etched foil here. My friend Zach gave this to me for basically free. So she is 3 mana, but you almost never really pay 3 mana for her, for a 1/3. And then she has an ability, a pretty unique one, called Commander Ninjutsu, which is 2 mana, so a blue and a black. And you can return an unblocked attacking creature you control, and then you put this card onto the battlefield from your hand or the command zone tapped and attacking. And then she has the ability of whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, you reveal the top card of your deck and put that card into your hand, and then each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So not only does she draw you a bunch of cards whenever ninjas hit your opponents, but she also makes your opponents lose a bunch of life depending on what the top card of your deck is. First up, we're going to have all the small evasive creatures that are used to get through so that you can Commander Ninjutsu Yuriko onto the battlefield. So we have Ornithopter, which is just a 0 mana for a 0/2 flying. This is nice because it only doesn't cost any mana, so when you ninjutsu it, you can just play it out again the same turn with no mana investment. And then a lot of times one player is not going to have a flying blocker, so it can get through pretty easily. We also have Fairy Seer, which is 1 mana for a 1/1 flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2. This does double duty because not only is it a flyer, so hard to block, where you can ninjutsu in a creature, but also it scries, so it also sets up the top of your deck for your Yuriko triggers. We also have Triton Shorestalker, who's simply just 1 blue mana for a 1/1, and it can't be blocked. We also have Moth Dust Changeling, who's 1 mana for a 1/1, has Changeling, and then also tap an untapped creature you control, and it gains flying until end of turn. This card is good in the deck because of the Changeling ability, so this counts as a ninja. So if this does damage while Yuriko's on the battlefield, you'll get an additional Yuriko trigger. We also have a Tormented Soul, which is 1 mana for a 1/1. It can't block and is unblockable. Next up, we have Mausoleum Wanderer. It's 1 mana for a 1/1 flying. Whenever another spirit enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then you can also sacrifice it, and you can counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays X, where X is Mausoleum Wanderer's power. Both of these 2 abilities don't come into play too often. Maybe the sacrifice ability if your opponent taps out for something really big. Mostly it's just there for a 1 mana 1/1 flyer. Next up, we have Changeling Outcast, which is 1 mana for a 1/1 Changeling. It can't block and can't be blocked. Once again, with the Changeling here, that's very important because this also counts as a ninja, and it is unblockable. We also have Slitherblade, another 1 mana for a 1/2 that can't be blocked. We also have Spectral Sailor, which is 1 mana for a 1/1 flash with flying, and then an ability of pay 4 mana to draw a card. And next up we have Mistcloaked Herald, which is 1 mana for a 1/1 that can't be blocked. We also have Gudul Lurker, it's 1 mana for a 1/1 can't be blocked. You might be noticing a theme here. And then he also has an ability of Megamorph, where you can morph him face down for 3 mana as a 2/2 creature, and then you can turn it face up for 1 blue mana for Megamorph, and then it enters with a 1/1 counter. So it'd be a 2/2, unblockable if you so choose. We also have Siren Storm Tamer, who's 1 mana for a 1/1 flying, and you can pay a blue mana, sacrifice it, counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. So this is nice to protect Yuriko. It's also nice to protect you because you might become a target at some point in the game. So you can also sacrifice it to counter something really big that targets you or trying to take you out. Next up we have Tetsuku Umizawa's Fugitive. It's 2 mana for a 1/3, and creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. This is nice because Yuriko is also just a 1 power creature, so this makes Yuriko unblockable. Next up we have Dimir Infiltrator. It's 2 mana for a 1/3 that is unblockable, and then it also has Transmute of 3, where you can discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. You can only play it as a sorcery. There's a couple little transmute targets in here, not too much. Mostly it's just there for the 1/3 unblockable. We also have Invisible Stalker, 2 mana for a 1/1 hexproof that is unblockable. We also have Ghostly Pilferer, it's 2 mana for a 2/1. When he becomes untapped, you can pay 2, and if you do, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card. And then you also can discard a card and he can't be blocked. The middle ability is nice because in Commander, that means whenever your opponent casts their commander, you get to draw a card. Also, if they cast spells from anywhere else, like cast them from their graveyard, cast them from their library, so it has some uses. We also have Baleful Strix, it's 2 mana for a 1/1 flying Death Touch, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. We also have Augury Owl, it's 2 mana for a 1/1 flying. When he enters the battlefield, you get to scry 3. Obviously, the scrying ability is really good in this deck, setting up the top cards so that Yuriko can get the biggest triggers, and then also just being a 1/1 flyer that you can ninjutsu. The nice part about ninjutsu is this brings this back into your hands so that when you cast it again, you also get that scry 3 ability. We also have Phantom Ninja, who's 3 mana for a 2/2 that can't be blocked. Biggest thing about this one, though, is it is a ninja. Next up, we have some more ninjas with the ninjutsu ability. We have Mistblade Shinobi, who's 3 mana for a 1/1 ninjutsu of 1 blue mana. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature that player controls to their owner's hand. So you get an unsummon. Next up, we have Okiba Gang Shinobi. It's 5 mana for a 3/2, but it has ninjutsu for 4. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. So you get a Mind Rot. And next up, we have Skull Snatcher, who's 2 mana for a 2/1, also with ninjutsu, though, of 1 black mana. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, remove up to 2 target cards in that player's graveyard from the game. We have Mist Syndicate Naga. It's 3 mana for a 3/1 with ninjutsu of 3. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a token that's an exact copy of it. We have Walker of Secret Ways, who's 3 mana for a 1/2, but ninjutsu ability of 2. And whenever Walker of the Secret Ways deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand. And then you can also pay 2 and return a ninja you control to your hand. Play this ability only during your turn. That's a nice way to reset some of your ninjutsu creatures. Next up, we have Hygger the Still Wind. It's 5 mana for a 3/4, ninjutsu of 4. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may search your library for a ninja card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. and then also has an ability of pay 2 mana, target ninja is unblockable this turn. Here we have Fallen Shinobi. It's 5 mana for a 5/4 with ninjutsu ability of 4. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana costs. Here we have Throat Slitter. It's 5 mana for a 2/2, but ninjutsu of 3. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-black creature that player controls. We also have Ingenious Infiltrator. It's 4 mana for a 2/3, but ninjutsu ability of 2. And whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And here we have Moonblade Shinobi. It's 4 mana for a 3/2 with ninjutsu of 3 mana. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. And we also have Throat Seeker, who's 3 mana for a 3/2. Unblocked, attacking ninjas you control have lifelink. This is one of the only ninjas that doesn't have the ninjutsu ability, but this is good for just giving some of your creatures lifelink, because, like I said, you often become a target, so giving some of your creatures lifelink can help keep you from dying. We also have Ninja of the Deep Hours, 4 mana for a 2/2, with ninjutsu for 2 mana. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get to draw a card. We also have Azra Smoke Shaper. It's 4 mana for a 3/3, but ninjutsu ability of 2. And when he enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. And we also have Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni. 6 mana for a 5/4, but ninjutsu ability of 5. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you may put target creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then he also has the ability of pay 2 mana to regenerate him. And lastly, we have Silent Blade Oni, who costs a ton of mana, but he has a ninjutsu ability of 6. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand, and then you can cast a non-land card in it without paying that card's mana cost. He just gets to steal something from your opponent. Next up, we're going to have some cards that can manipulate the top card of your deck. So we have Ponder here in its awesome old school frame, which I love. Time shifted. So 1 blue mana, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library, and then you get to draw a card. We also have Brainstorm, which is 1 blue mana, instant, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand back on top of your deck in any order. We also have Sensei's Divining Top. I got it here in the Japanese version, which kind of fits the theme of the deck. And it's 1 mana for an artifact, and it has pay 1 mana, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and put them back in any order. And then it also says tap, and then you get to draw a card, and then you put Sensei's Divining Top back on top of your deck. We also have Vampiric Tutor, which is 1 black mana for an instant. Search your library for a card and put it on top of your deck, and then you also lose 2 life. And we have Mystical Tutor, which is 1 blue mana instant. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, and put it on top of your deck. And we also have Scheming Symmetry, which is 1 black mana for a sorcery. You choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and put that card on top of it. This is also a nice political tool where you get to search your deck for something big, put it on top, so you get a good Yuriko trigger, and then you also have to pick an opponent to put something on top too. And we also have Diabolic Vision, which is 2 mana. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hands, and then you put the remaining 4 on top of your library in any order. And we also have Telling Time, which is 2 mana for an instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one of them into your hands, one of them on top of your library, and one on the bottom. And we also have Scroll Rack, which is 2 mana for an artifact, and you get pay 1 and tap it. Exile any number of cards from your hand face down. Put that many cards from the top of your deck into your hand. Then look at the exiled cards and put them on top of your library in any order. So what this does is it basically takes the cards in your hand and puts them on top of your deck, and then you draw cards equal to that from the top of your library. So if your hand is just filled with a lot of high mana cost cards, which it will be because if you keep on stacking your deck with high mana cards and drawing them off of Yuriko, they'll be stuck in your hands. And then you can use Scroll Rack to put them back on top of your deck. And by the time you go through 2 cycles of that, you're probably going to kill everybody at the table. We also have Jace Mirror Mage, who's 3 mana for a Planeswalker, starting loyalty of 4. He also has a Kicker ability, which is 2 colorless, and if he enters the battlefield, if he was kicked, you create a token that's a copy of him. And then its starting loyalty is 1. But mainly he's in here for his +1 ability, which is just Scry 2. And then he also has a 0 ability where you draw a card and reveal it, and then you remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace. And we also have a Jace the Mind Sculptor too, who's 4 mana, starting loyalty of 3. He has a +2 ability of look at the top card of target player's library. You may put that card on the bottom. He has a 0 ability which brainstorms, so you get to draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library. His -1 is unsummon, just return target creature to its owner's hand. And his -12, which will probably never come up, but it's exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library. He is mostly in here just for the repeatable brainstorm, just drawing cards and putting all the big mana cost cards back on top of your deck. The next theme is going to be the high converted mana cost cards. So first up we have Seagate Restoration, which is awesome in this deck because it's 7 mana for its mana cost, but it is also just a dual face card where its backside is just a land that can enter the battlefield untapped. It is a sorcery though, and it says draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand +1, and then you also have no maximum hand size. Here we have some cards that have this ability Undaunted, which says that this spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent. So in a normal 4-player game, this will usually cost 3 less mana. So what it is Coastal Breach. This one's 7 mana, and it has an ability of returning all non-land permanents to their owner's hand. These cards are a little bit underplayed in the Yuriko decks that you'll see on like EDH Rec and stuff, but I think they're really cool. I like that they have a high mana cost, but they have an ability that can reduce it, and then also they have pretty good effects too. This could just be 4 mana to return all permanents. We also have Curtain's Call, which is 6 mana, but once again it has the Undaunted ability. So if you have, in a 4-player game, 3 opponents, this can only cost 3 mana, and it just is an instant and destroy 2 target creatures. So for 3 mana, destroying 2 creatures is not bad at all. Here we're going to have some split cards, and how these work with Yuriko is you add up both the mana cost of one side and the other side. So Commit to Memory actually has a total converted mana cost of 10. So when you flip it with Yuriko, it's going to deal 10 damage to each opponent. Commit is 4 mana for an instant, and you can put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library second from the top. And then Memory has Aftermath, which means you can only cast it from your graveyard. And it says each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. We also have Consign to Oblivion, which total converted mana cost is 7. Consign is 2 mana, just return a permanent to its owner's hand. And Oblivion is 5 mana with Aftermath, target opponent discards 2 cards. We also have, I think, one of the highest converted mana cost cards in the whole deck, which is Rags to Riches. This one is going to be 11. So if you flip this with Yuriko, you're going to be dealing 11 damage to each opponent. Rags is 4 mana, sorcery, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. And Riches is 7 mana with Aftermath, and each opponent chooses a creature he or she controls, and then you gain control of those creatures. So both half aren't even too bad, but obviously it's in there to deal 11 damage. And then we also have up next, we have Connive and Concoct, which this converted mana cost will total up to 9. Connive is 4 mana, gain control of target creature with power 2 or less. And Concoct is Surveil 3, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Surveil is also good in this deck too, because it is top deck manipulation. And we also have Discovery and Dispersal. Discovery is Surveil 2, then draw a card. And Dispersal is each opponent returns a permanent they control with the highest converted mana cost among permanents they control to their hands, and then they discard a card. And once again, this is a split card that is 7 converted mana cost. Next up, we're going to have some spells that have a decently high converted mana cost, but they're free to play. So first we have Fierce Guardianship, which is 3 converted mana cost for an instant, but if you control your commander, you can cast this spell without paying its mana cost, and it is just a negate, so counter target non-creature spell. In this deck, you almost always control your commander, because it always costs only 2 mana. As long as you have an unblocked creature, you can ninjutsu Yuriko out, and then that will allow you to cast Fierce Guardianship for free. Yuriko is also really hard to kill, because she always costs 2 mana. So if they try to kill your commander, you can just ninjutsu it out for 2 mana again, even on the same turn or on the next turn. And then we also have Force of Will, just 5 mana. You can pay 1 life and remove a blue card in your hand from the game. And Force of Will just counters target spell. So it's basically a 5 converted mana cost that is never cast for 5. And in the same vein as that, we also have Misdirection, which is also 5 converted mana cost. And it reads, you may exile a blue card from your hands rather than pay Misdirection's mana cost, and then you get to change the target of target spell with a single target. So these 2 cards are good in the deck, both Force and Misdirection, because you do draw a lot of cards in the deck, so pitching a card from your hand is not too bad. Next up, we have Snuff Out, which is 4 mana for an instant, and it reads, if you control a swamp, you can just pay 4 life instead of paying its mana cost, and it just destroys target non-black creature that can't be regenerated. And we also have Submerge, which is 5 mana for an instant, but if an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may play Submerge without paying its mana cost, and this reads, put target creature on top of its owner's library. In Commander, almost always somebody will control some kind of forest, whether it's a shock land or a dual lands, so you can almost always play Submerge for free as long as you control an island. Then we have some Delve spells, which are cards that are going to have a very high converted mana cost, but they all have the Delve ability, so that you can just exile cards from your graveyard to reduce its mana cost. First up, we have Treasure Cruise, which is 8 mana with Delve, and it reads draw 3 cards. So Delve is each card you exile from your graveyard while casting the spell pays for 1 colorless mana. So basically, if you exile 7 cards from your graveyard with Treasure Cruise, it reads 1 blue mana, draw 3 cards, which is Ancestral Recall. We also have Temporal Trespass, which is one of the highest converted mana cost cards in the deck too. This one is 11 with Delve, and it reads take an extra turn after this one, and then you have to exile Temporal Trespass. This is really good because if you get a turn with 1 or 2 ninjas out with Yuriko, and you flip this and then cast it to take an extra turn, you are probably just going to win the game. We also have Dig Through Time, which is 8 mana, but also with Delve. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Next up, we're going to have a couple protection spells. We have Lightning Greaves, which is 2 mana artifact equipment, equip 0, and equip creature has haste and shroud. And we also have Smoke Shroud, which is 2 mana enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. And whenever a ninja enters the battlefield under your control, you can return Smoke Shroud from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. This is good for putting on any number of your ninjas or for putting on Yuriko so that if she's stuck on the battlefield, you can get her through by giving her flying. We also have Mana Drain, which is 2 mana counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, you add an amount of colorless mana equal to that spell's converted mana cost. And we also have Talisman of Dominance, which is 2 mana, taps to add a colorless, or you can tap it to add a blue or a black, but then it deals 1 damage to you. And we also have a Soul Ring, which is 1 mana, tap, and it adds 2 colorless to your mana pool. Next up, we have Arcane Adaptation, which is 3 mana for an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and then all creatures you control are the chosen type. So this is really good for those numerous 1 mana 1/1s that are unblockable. When you play this, it turns them all into ninjas. So then when you get Yuriko out, you get a Yuriko trigger for every creature that deals damage to your opponent. Same thing with Maskwood Nexus, just 4 mana artifact. Creatures you control are every creature type, so that means they are ninjas. And then you can pay 3 mana to tap it to create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So it pays, you can make 3 mana, tap it, and make a 2/2 ninja. And then lastly, we're just going to have the mana base. Obviously, we're going to have a Mystic Sanctuary in here. Which is an island, so it is fetchable. And when it enters the battlefield, it's tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And when it enters the battlefield untapped, you can search. You may put a target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard back on top of your library. We also have a Mutavault, which adds a colorless, but you can pay 1 and it becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types. Obviously, Changeling ability once again is good in this deck. We have a Creeping Tar Pit. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you can pay 3 mana to make it a 3/2 blue and black elemental that is unblockable. We have a Field of Ruin, just something for getting rid of some pesky lands. We also have a Reliquary Tower, just because your hands can get pretty big with this deck, drawing cards from Yuriko, so having the no maximum hand size is good. We have a couple fetches here. We have Flooded Strands, a Verdant Catacombs, a Polluted Delta. We also have a Dismal Backwater. This is just in here just to gain a little bit of life, do some mana fixing. Of course, we have a Watery Grave. We have an Underground River, which is tap, add a blue or black to your mana pool, and it deals 1 damage to you. We have a Temple of Deceit, which enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1, and you can add a blue or a black. Usually the temples aren't that good in Commander, but because this one scries, that makes it in the deck. And we also have a Pathway, which is a dual face card. It's blue on one side, black on the other side. Enters the battlefield untapped. And we have a Fetid Pools, Darkwater Catacombs, Drowned Catacombs. We have an Expedition Darkslick Shores here. This deck is pretty low converted mana cost, so I'm fine playing the fast lands here. And we have a Command Tower, Sunken Hollow, Choked Estuary, Dimir Aqueducts, and then we just round it out with some basic islands and some basic swamps. And that is the deck. So I hope you like this one. Like I said, one's a little bit higher powered, but it is a very fun deck to play. But it will make some of your opponents mad when you start flipping 8, 9, 10, 11 converted mana cost cards off the top of your deck and just kill everybody at the table and, over the course of a couple turns. Either that or you're going to die. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I have some other ones planned, like I said, and then also I'll be doing some Strixhaven box opening soon too. All right, yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought about that, and let me know if you have any other ideas for other commanders, even commanders that are coming out in Strixhaven. And just let me know. And then, like I said, like the video, subscribe, comments what you feel about it, any ideas, anything like that. All right, awesome. All right, I'll see you guys later.